Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Willard, which is actually, I think, one of the more popular horror films of 1971, although, in my opinion, it is barely a horror film, but I guess it is one. Either way, it's a good movie. It was put out by Cinerama. Now, Cinerama was a distributing company that started in the late 60s and went through the mid 70s. We have seen Cinerama put out Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly, and The House That Dripped Blood, which are both British films. And so I didn't really think much about Cinerama until I realized they put Willard out, and Willard was an American film. And I looked into it, and apparently within a few years of existing, Cinerama had taken up 10% of all of the revenue in American theaters, which makes it a mini major distribution company. Kind of puts it like almost on the level of Fox and Warner Brothers and Universal and Columbia and stuff like that. I think the big five distribution companies make up 80% of the market share, and so Cinerama made up 10% of the market share just on its own, which gave it the classification of mini major. Anyway, Willard is an interesting movie. I guess if you're afraid of rats, this would really be a horror film. There's a lot of rats in it. But if you can hear the music in the background, the vibe of it is not very horror. I don't think there's much to spoil. It's such a simple plot. So, it's a horror film because basically Willard is a boy who communicates with rats and uses them to kill someone. So, I guess that makes it horror. Plus, like I said, if you're afraid of rats, seeing a bunch of rats swarm on a human and bite him to death is pretty scary, I guess. So, Willard was pretty successful when it came out. It also had a great cast. Playing Willard is Bruce Davison, and he's not exactly like I think he made some more. This was his first. He was very young. I don't know how old he was. I should have looked that up, but he's supposed to be 27, but he does not look 27. He looks about 20 in the movie, which is the opposite. Usually you get someone playing a teen and they're really like 25. In this case, this guy is supposed to be 27. He looks really young. And Willard's mother is played by Elsa Lanchester. I think I said that right. Elsa Lanchester was the Bride of Frankenstein in Bride of Frankenstein all the way back in 1935. And she was the wife of Charles Laughton, who is probably my favorite 1930s actor across the entire world. And I love what I know about them because they met in theater acting in like the 1920s and got married before either one of them was a big movie star, and then they both became big movie stars. Charles Laughton was, I guess he wasn't the biggest movie star of the 30s, but from all the 30s films I've seen, he's definitely my favorite. And, he was in The Private Life of Henry VIII, I think it's Henry VIII, which was a big movie in 1934, I think. And after that, he was just basically I'm pretty sure choosing scripts and, top billing in every single movie he was in for decades after that. And Elsa Lanchester was in some movies with him and in a lot of big movies as well. So it was cool to see her in this. I think this was towards the end of her life. I know Charles Laughton passed away in the 60s. Also, we have with Ernest Borgnine as Willard's boss, who is a total jerk in this movie. And Ernest Borgnine is another big actor. I think he was in a few things in the 50s, and then he was in The Wild Bunch in the 60s. And then by the 70s, he started getting major top billing roles, and he was doing films all the way through at least 2010, and playing the lead in films across the decades. And also, cool fun fact, which I learned on this literal street Ernest Borgnine grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, which is about 5 minutes away from where I live, and he's got a big poster. New Haven has done this thing lately where they put all these famous New Haven residents on giant posters on buildings around the city. And so right near a place I eat at all the time, there's this big picture of Ernest Borgnine's face, which he's in Deadly Blessing, which was a Wes Craven film about like evil people in the Amish country. And he's in some other ones too. Shoot, what else is he in? He's in a bunch of big movies. But anyway, he's not really a horror guy per se, but he's a great actor. It's interesting that he went all the way to 2010 because he looks old in this movie. Maybe just because of the bald hairstyle where you're trying to have hair but you're really bald but you don't shave it. I think that just makes people look older. But anyway, great cast. Also, Sandra Locke is great in this. Apparently, she was in a whole bunch of Clint Eastwood westerns after this. She's Willard's love interest, and she's a beautiful young actress who was I think she passed away in 2018, but she's in about 24 movies herself. So anyway, I give this an 8 out of 10. The reason why it's not perfect to me is because it seems to be confused as to what it is going for. The cast is great, the acting is great, it looks beautiful, and now part of that is because it has a brilliant restoration. I watched this on Canopy, which is a free app if you have a library card and your library participates. And Canopy is I don't know. I feel like they specialize in films that have artistic merit. A lot of the stuff I watch on Canopy is French or Italian. But they did have this on Canopy. I love Canopy. Everything I watch on there I end up liking. So someone's curating the films quite well for Canopy. Anyway, the whole time this feels almost like a feel-good type movie. Willard's taking care of his mother. He's a good worker. He's a caring person. He gets a little frustrated because his boss is always picking on him and basically trying to push him to quit because the boss just doesn't like him. So you have pity on him, and at one point, and if you're interested, I guess I would turn it off because I'm going to talk about. I mean, there's no mystery here. It's not really. I mean, you already know that he uses rats to kill people, so you don't really have to turn it off. You can see it for yourself because it's well executed. It's up to you. I don't really think you can spoil this, honestly. It's just too simple of a movie. But anyway, his mother asks him to kill some rats, but instead of killing them, he kind of like takes them in, puts them in the basement, and starts feeding them. And Willard's main two problems, actually three problems, are that when his mother passes away, he's lonely. He lives in essentially a mansion in Los Angeles, and he doesn't realize this, probably due to his relatively young age, which I think they should have said he was 21 instead of 27. But he doesn't realize that he doesn't just own the house once his mother passes away, and that there's a heavy mortgage on it, and he does not have the income to support the mortgage or even pay the taxes, the annual taxes on the house. It's kind of interesting to put this like weird life lesson in here, like he has no clue like what taxes are, what mortgage is, or anything like that. And then when people tell him, everybody in the movie keeps telling him like, you should sell that house. It's huge. I don't know how many rooms are in it, but just in the film you probably see about 10 rooms, and that the actual house is probably bigger. And he's just like, no, I'm not selling the house. It's my house. But like, it makes no sense for him to be in there. But anyway, he refuses to sell the house. And at one point, so he keeps getting all these rats. Then he realizes he can kind of control them. And honestly, I thought they were going to exploit that idea more. But like, they don't really show him do that many things with the rats other than like feed them and play with them and stuff. But at one point, he like brings them all to this relatively rich guy's house and uses them to scare the guy and his wife. They run out of the house. And then he like steals like a couple $1,000s like out of the guy's wallet or whatever. And then he uses that to pay the taxes. You know, like that's to me that's not horror, but there are like hundreds of rats like writhing around in this movie in the whole second half of the movie. So I guess that would be like unsettling. If you look here, it says this is the one movie you should not see alone. Like it's like going to be so scary. It's rated GP, like it's not even rated R. So it's not really that scary. I don't know, like it's not really a horror film, but it kind of is, and it was definitely marketed as one, and from everything I read, everyone says it is. At the end, he ends up sicking all the rats on his boss, and the boss is killed pretty brutally. The rats are biting him, and he's squirming around. He ends up jumping out of the window, falling to his death on the sidewalk. So, like, I guess that's, like, gruesome enough to, be scary. And then at the end, Willard tries to rid himself of the rats, and he drowns them, like, 50 at a time by putting them in these crates and dunking, like, 2 crates with 50 rats each, like, in this little, like, ditch filled with water in his backyard, and just, like, drowns, like, 200 rats, like in like 30 seconds, like a minute. I'm sure he didn't drown real rats, although every time you see a rat, the rats are alive, like they're real. I don't even know if this would be allowed to be made today with real rats. Like they're sticking rats in all sorts of weird places. Like I don't know if that is down with the animal cruelty acts these days, but it is very interesting to look back and watch all these rats work. And I imagine the director and the cinematographer and everyone involved in making the film like had to have a lot of patience, because I don't think the rats are really going to just do what you want them to do. But anyway, the 2 reasons why I will accept that this is a horror movie is because towards the end, Willard is in total control of these rats. So that is a supernatural element to me. And so he's in total control of these rats. And then after he drowns all these rats, this one rat, Ben, who's on the cover here, the poster here, he like they don't really show it, but he rounds up hundreds and hundreds of more rats and then invades Willard's house at the end, and then they all kill him. So like, that's horror. If we had this going on throughout the entire movie, it would be unquestionably horror. And so there's a strong enough horror element at the end of the supernatural and the grotesque and the gruesome that I will say it's a horror film, but only in the last 15 minutes does it achieve this classification. The rest of it is just a drama. But I liked it anyway. I'm just saying, like, don't go into it thinking it's going to be like a bunch of rats killing people the whole time, because I think you might be disappointed if I don't spoil that, or maybe not. I also think the poster is really cool. It's very different from the other posters we see at the time. It's black and white. Willard is a photograph, and then there's a drawn rat on his shoulder, which I assume they were trying to pass off as that being photographed too, but like obviously it's not. And then the rainbow text is really, like, it's somewhat striking because it grabs your attention, but, like, why is it rainbow? I don't know. But I kind of like it, but I don't know why they chose that. It doesn't really fit the film. But it's interesting because it doesn't look like a typical... I mean, he looks, like, slightly menacing there, which he doesn't even look menacing almost in the entire film. I don't know. It's an interesting movie for sure. And it did well, and it spawned a sequel that came out the next year. So assuming there are horror elements in that one, I'll be doing that one early in 1972, because as far as I can see, there's only 2 films in 1972 that are sequels to earlier films, I think. Unless we get into like Godzilla territory, which we haven't really gone into that yet. But yeah, so the second movie is called Ben, which is the name of the rat. So I feel like they're going to do more rat-sploitation in that. Also, this is so weird, and I really should probably save this for a whole video on Ben, but just going to put it out there now. The theme song for Ben was performed by Michael Jackson like as a kid, and it was a #1 Billboard hit. And I just listened to the song, and it is literally Michael Jackson singing about how his best friend is a rat. How is that? How is that a #1 song in 1972? Like, that makes me just feel like I don't understand anything. Like, there's a little kid singing a song about being best friends with a rat, and that is the most popular song of the entire week when it came out. Crazy. And anyway, they also made a remake of Willard in 2003 with, now I'm confused. I think the lead actor is Crispin Glover, but I think he also sings a cover of the Michael Jackson song. Don't be mad at me if that's wrong. I'm pretty sure that's what I read, but I don't really know Crispin Glover. Is he a singer too? I don't really know. But I also read that the producers tried to say it wasn't a remake, but like it's called Willard. It's about a dude with a rat. It's a remake. Like, oh, also this was based on a book, and the book, I think it was called Rat Man's Notebooks, and he doesn't even have a name. The main character doesn't even have a name in the book, but like the rest of it is essentially the same story. So after the movie was successful, the movie gave him a name, because you can't have, so it would be hard to have a successful popular movie where the lead character has no name. So they gave him the name Willard, and then the author went back and like changed the book up so that his name's Willard in the book. So that's rare. I don't think that happens very often. He went back and like adapted the book from the movie that was adapted from the book. So there's a lot of interesting stuff about this movie, Willard. So this is the third one in a row that I thought was really good, which we slogged through a lot of garbage in 1971, which I'm sure we will do every year, because I think more and more garbage comes out as the years progress in horror, which today I would say 95% of all the horror that comes out is garbage. And luckily, you don't hear about most of it, but it's coming out. It's not coming out in the theater, but it's coming out. You can stream it. You can find it on Blu-ray, I guess. Probably mostly streaming by 2021, because it's cheaper for the distributors, and nobody cares about buying Blu-rays of unheard of stuff, so they just come out on like Hulu and Netflix and YouTube, and there's no physical media for a lot of it, which is whatever. But anyway, I think every year there's more garbage than the year before, because this is the 49th video. No, 50th. This is the 50th 1970 video that I've done, and I think I'm I think I'm slightly halfway through 1971, and in 1970, I only did 49 videos, and I think I need to do like 2 or 3 more for some stuff I finally got my hands on that I couldn't before. Foreign stuff, mostly. No, it's 100% foreign stuff, actually. But anyway, I did 49 videos for 70, and then like I was pretty much done. I did 50 for 71, and we've got at least 25 more to do. Maybe 35 more. So I think every year there's going to be more and more. This is going to be a very hard project to do, but it's fun, and it's getting more traction, so I like that. So I'm just going to keep doing it, but there's a lot of garbage out there. Anyway, Willard is not a piece of garbage. It's definitely worth a watch, and Canopy is definitely worth downloading, and they're not paying me to say that or anything. It's a free app anyway, and there's no ads on it, and everything on there is like restored and looks great. So I would definitely get it. All right, see you next time.